Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. For years at 2 Point Hospital, it's been our mission to help and to heal. Take Trevor, for instance. Trevor used to be happy, healthy, and wealthy. Life was good. He slept easily. That was until he suddenly developed lightheadedness. The daily commute is now even more of a grind for Trevor. Even simple pleasures like heading to the movies can be painful. Every day we welcome new admissions to our growing multi-million-dollar facility. Our team of highly trained clinicians and support staff are dedicated to your well-being. We'll do whatever it takes. At 2 Point Hospital, we never stop improving. We never stop building. We never stop caring. Isn't that right, Trevor? Call 4417-529-U-SICK today to book your free consultation.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Make War Not Love at PC Gamer Weekender. I'm John Sargent, and I'm extremely excited to be sat on the couch with what I can only describe as two titans of this at least very niche corner of the gaming industry. Gentlemen, I'm here with some of the great minds, I should say, behind 2 Point Hospital, one of the year's most hotly anticipated games. Gentlemen, why don't you go ahead, introduce yourselves, and let us know what you do for 2 Point.
You go first.
I'll go first. Hi, I'm Ben Heimers. I'm co-founder and technical director of 2 Point Studios.
I'm Gary Carr. I'm also co-founder and I'm creative director at 2 Point.
And guys, this is, I think, for many reasons that the media have obviously covered to death already, very, very highly anticipated game. I don't think I have seen this much sort of groundswell hype over a game that we've been so excited about for a very long time. Why don't you guys talk to us about... I think we should probably start at least in the recent past. Talk to us about the founding of 2 Point Studios and what brought you guys together.
Well, that starts a long time ago with Gary and Mark Webley. They're the original creators of Theme Hospital.
Yep.
How long ago? We're heavily inspired by.
No doubt. How long ago was that? When did you guys meet?
Mark and myself first worked together at Bullfrog back in 91, 92.
Wow, okay. So you guys have been in the game a long time.
Yeah, a long time, as you can see from this face. So we worked together in the early days of Bullfrog, and then we got this opportunity to... At this point, Bullfrog had about 4 or 5 projects in development.
Sure.
And as we were more senior, we got the chance to actually run our own project. So we got to work on a game called Theme Hospital, which was like the sequel to Theme Park. If you remember Theme Park?
Yes. Oh wow, that brings me properly back.
So that was our baby within the Bullfrog company at the time, and it did really, really well. Actually, I don't think anyone was expecting it to do very well because it was the least fashionable of all the games in development at the time.
Sure.
Weird idea for a game.
Yeah, weird idea for a game, weird subject matter, but you can still play the game today. It's still doing very well. Of course.
And so I'm guessing really it was your shared love of sim games that kind of brought you guys together in the first place.
What, the three of us? Well, yeah, I think the games that Mark and I made in the sort of 90s and early noughties were a lot of them were what you call God games, or little people games, and we enjoyed making those games. But when Ben and myself got together, that was only a few years ago, really.
2014.
Yes.
I joined Lionhead, where Gary was working as head of the incubation department, sort of prototyping new ideas. I joined, sat down in the interview next to Gary while they were interviewing me for the position. Gary casually dropped in. I was the artist on Theme Hospital, and
don't mention that all the time, by the way.
It doesn't go on about it. No.
I think we were talking about something to do
it wasn't like out of context. It didn't just drop it.
That's all I say.
Hold on a minute, I'm the artist of Theme. No, it just came up, and I was kind of like,
hang on a second.
Man, no way.
This is cool. Awesome.
And I think from that point on, it was pretty clear I was enthusiastic, to say the least, about sim games.
You knew more about what we were making back in the 80s, 90s, and noughties than I remember. And that was one of the things I really liked about you, that you had this enthusiasm to make something now, which kind of like harked back to those kind of great games that we made before. And we'd kind of put them to one side and decided that was then. And you enthused me to sort of think, well, maybe we should do something like this again. Because if you're this excited by it, and you're not the oldest person I've ever met, maybe other people who are my age will actually like something in this vein again.
And so I guess that's sort of where almost the ideation for revisiting and thinking about how can we create this new experience from maybe similar experience that we've loved so much in the past. But did that really take off effectively at the moment that 2 Point started?
No, it needed another element. We needed Mark Webley.
Okay.
At that point in time, we were still working at Lionhead.
Yeah.
And if I was going to do this, I was going to have to obviously move on. And
certainly.
And it's difficult to take somebody who's got a great job and a career ahead of him to say, come and leave and let's do this thing. So I needed to speak with Mark and see if he thought this was a crazy idea or not. So
sure.
We went and met Mark, and he seemed
to.
He sort of.
Holiday Inn in Guildford.
That's right. He sort of thought it
lobby.
was an okay idea. I don't think he was as convinced as us.
Yeah.
But he went along for a while, and then it just kind of ballooned from there, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. From there, we sort of started thinking about how we could, modernise the kind of idea, how we could do the keep something with the same feel, but with a more modern take, more modern implementation.
But there's obviously that sort of covers the. We know what we want to do, and then actually getting your boots on the ground and doing it becomes a different story entirely. Talk me through day one at 2 Point Studios and how close things were to how you imagined they would be.
Well, day one was
probably before 2 Point Studios was even formed. There was probably a year of us trying to find out how we were going to get this done, how we were going to get it to an audience. Whether we should self-publish, whether we should source a publisher, which thank God we did in the end.
Yep.
But all of that stuff was a relearning curve for Mark and myself, and you'd not gone through this before,
and
had you?
Total learning experience for me. This is the first studio I've started, first game I've been in at this kind of level at.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a whole load of learning on everyone's parts.
But even for Mark and myself, it'd been a long time. We'd formed studios, 15 plus years earlier. So things have moved on. It was completely new experience. I mean, we'd never really understood what self-publishing was. We'd never kickstarted.
Well, we were talking about Kickstarter in the early days.
Right,
that's a recent phenomenon. We ended up not going down that route after we talked to some contacts we've got who sort of advised against it in the end.
Sure.
And I think we've done very well for it.
Yeah, I mean, Sega have been brilliant. Sega, I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm here on the channel. Sega got the idea from the first time they had a conversation with us.
Okay, yep.
Anecdotally, they'd been talking only a couple of days earlier about we should do something like those old Bullfrog games used to be like. We need to do something like that. And then we knocked on the door. So from that point on, it's just worked as a team.
That's amazing.
Sega have been a great partner, and we've been able to get on with making the game. And anything we don't understand or we need help with, we just get on the phone to those guys and they come and help us. So.
And I think that would be a good moment to maybe pause the nostalgia just a little bit, because while I'm extremely excited because I've been able to play games in the past that you guys have had your hands on and I know exactly what I'm getting into and I'm really, really looking forward to it, there are a reasonable number of people who never played preceding games or don't necessarily fully understand the inspiration. I'm sure they know of it by now, but if we were to get it on the ground floor and I were to say, look guys, what is 2 Point Hospital? What would that answer look like?
You go first.
That's a hard question. I'll be very direct about it. It's a hospital management simulation game, which sounds extremely dry.
That's not what the trailer suggests. Let's put it that way.
It's correct.
But the thing is, all the games that Bullfrog used to make, I guess, and Lionhead, and the sort of companies that we work with, always twist it. They always do something that should be really dull, and isn't. They just kind of put that angle on it. And I think what we like to do is take ordinary situations and just flip them on their head.
Yeah, sure.
And I think we, if you've not heard of this title, don't assume it's about healthcare necessarily. We're not healthcare experts. I don't know if you can tell that by looking at us.
We've had very little medical
We're not
training.
qualified to cure anybody or even diagnose anybody. So it's just taking an ordinary theme and just making it extraordinary.
Sure. Yeah, not like not explicitly making jokes about things, but just sort of doing things a bit off kilter, a bit odd, and from that there's a lot of comedy.
And describe to me what would the thought process be like to turn something that could be quite dull and mundane into something that's entertaining and replayable. There must, at some point, you're all sat in a room going, right, what's the next illness going to be? I would love to have been a fly on the wall at one of those meetings.
Yeah.
Talk us through what one of them is like, or if you have maybe a specific example where you think there's a great story behind it.
Well, just to backtrack slightly, what we've done is cornered subject matter people don't normally want to make games about. Everyone's covering, dungeon crawling and space travel and all those things. So we've managed to sort of go off where the crowds aren't and find subject matter that perhaps isn't everyone's first choice of gameplay.
Of course.
But then the fun is turning it into something that people may actually really like. So to your second point, coming up with all these wonderful made-up illnesses and made-up cures, it's just great fun in the office, just bantering around, and the whole team have made up these. It's not like there's never one person who does this job.
There's never a meeting to say, let's think of another illness, because that's a way to squash creativity, isn't it? It's more just someone will have a stupid idea. It's usually a pun.
Yeah.
A stupid
I think
pun.
that's the start point. Pun. Play on words.
Or just something that we think will look interesting or silly.
Yeah.
And then from that, someone else will build something on top of that.
And some
Not
of
everyone
them,
will
some of
always
them
agree on
work,
it, but
and some don't. Some of them we love at first, and then suddenly it goes, actually, I'm really bored of that.
That's not very funny. Let's stop that. But then some of them, like Mark keeps on saying, some of them they don't seem all that funny at first. But then once you layer on the visuals of it, layer on the animation,
it just works.
come up with some funny writing around it, then they start to become favourites. So it's never like talking about being a fly on a wall. It's never like you sit there and watch the moment that it happens. It's more like this process.
There's an email thread with a GIF somewhere.
There's very few of these either that actually you think that was that person's idea. They seem to be passed around and become everyone's concepts, and actually the better ones are everyone's concepts, because everyone's kind of thought about it when they've gone home and then come back the next day and talked about it again and layered another piece to the jigsaw to making it
and you come
fun and
later and it's
character.
hilarious.
And do you guys have any specific illnesses or cures that are personal favourites of yours that you're allowed to share with us right now?
Well, my personal favourites I can't share with you now.
Oh no!
Some are still with the lawyers, for instance.
Wow. Okay, that's an excellent idea. I want to know straight away. That sounds awesome.
But we have shown 3 here today at the Weekender. We've shown
Grey Anatomy,
which is characters who have lost all their colour pigment in their skin, and they're kind of gone monochromatic.
Yep.
They have to have it painted back on.
And they kind of go in for this, I call it an Essex spray tan of red, green, blue. So they get their colour print process back into so they get all their colours placed back on them.
Sure.
We've got Curse of the Mummy, which I don't know quite why they've got the Curse of the Mummy, but it doesn't really matter in our world. They come in
we never explain it.
as Hammer House of Horror mummies.
Yeah,
they're just funny to watch walk around. They've got this hilarious getting through the door
and
animation.
they sort of drag their
Everyone else
legs,
knocks on the door, but they kind of like
drag their hands, and they have to be decrypted.
God!
Sorry about that. Another play on words. So they go in the decryptor.
I feel like I'm going to leave this couch today being an expert in dad jokes. This is fantastic.
There's a lot of dad jokes at this game. Hence the face again.
Brilliant.
And one more was showing, which actually you saw in the announced trailer, which is the lightheadedness.
Lightheadedness, of course.
Which is an interesting to cover the point we said about iteration. That was actually originally called Bulbous Head, and Mark came up with a better play on words, I think, calling it lightheadedness. So
of course,
these are the kind of things. It's no more technical than that. There's no secret. We just play on ideas, and eventually, if they're good enough, they make it into the game.
And then eventually it gets shipped, and we have to stop.
I have to stop doing it.
Well, how close are we at the moment to way back when you having the idea for 2 Point Hospital? You are now obviously very close to being able to say this is the finished product.
Yeah.
how closely aligned were they? Was it very iterative and it's completely different from how you first envisioned it? Or have you managed to stay quite on point? How have things evolved?
I'm going to say it's gone a lot better than I even imagined.
Yeah.
Because we're a small team.
Yeah.
And I've come off working on teams that are 200 people, and to work with, a dozen plus people, that's all. Around about 15, 16 people on something, and it look and feel this polished. I'm just really proud of the team. I think
Yeah, ridiculously talented team, really. Yeah, we've been lucky to get the team that we got. But yeah, it's probably the mixture. Some of it you can kind of predict. I know this is going to be fun. It's just a case of doing it. Then there's other bits that we've had to experiment with, other bits that we've done that haven't turned out so well, that we've axed, other bits that we didn't think would be so great and have turned out brilliant.
Yeah, sounds like there should be a blooper reel somewhere.
Oh, there already is.
We're capturing some like bug videos and things. There's a lot of potential for silly stuff to happen.
That's right. But we do trust in people to follow through on what they believe is the right direction in their particular area. So we're not constantly reviewing everybody. We need to trust people to deliver, and that means we're being very productive very quickly, I think. And on finish, we're nowhere near finished, really. I mean, we're not even alpha yet, but we are due this year.
Okay.
So we're just rushing to get every bit of content ready, because this game is all about the balance. It's all about the fine-tuning. And from experience, we know that we've got to get the content. Every little element of the design, of the systems, has to be ready before we can start fine-tuning the game.
Everything affects everything else.
Yeah.
So everything has to be in place before you can really start turning up the polish, tweaking things, fixing bugs, making sure everything is well balanced. This is the kind of game that is it thrives on the quality that you put into it.
The pressure
we've given
have,
ourselves lots of time to do that.
we have done. I mean, it's scary. It's still,
but still worried about how much there is to do. But we want to make sure that we release really high quality. This is a premium title.
I mean, we've got obviously the original game we worked on, Mark and myself, 21 years ago. You could still buy that and play that game today.
21 years ago.
So we've got a lot to live up to. We've got a lot to basically compare to, and we want to make something for the next 20 years.
Of course.
So we've got to make sure, we've only got one shot at this, we've got to make sure we do the best job possible, create the most fun with challenge experience. We want it to appeal to people who just want to jump in and have fun, but also those who are quite hardcore, because that's what the original game succeeded in doing. It succeeded in attracting quite hardcore PC gamers and also casual gamers. So that's the real trick.
I remember getting yelled at for not being at the dinner table on more than one occasion. Let's put it that way. So 21 years ago and now, God, it seems like such a long time. What would you say are the biggest challenges that are around the gaming industry and taking a game to production now that maybe were problems that didn't have to be faced back then? Because the lay of the land has changed a lot. Like, even if we talk about, we could, I think, going to a store to buy a game versus Steam would be an excellent example of how the way we fundamentally consume gaming seems to be shifting a lot. Did any of that really impact you? And from a creative, from a publishing side, from a development side, are there things that are ridiculously different now? Or behind the scenes, is it still quite similar?
Well, so the difference between retail and Steam, there's good things and bad things in that.
I'd say that.
The good thing is getting stuff on Steam. That's relatively easy, right? So we can just upload the latest build and boom, it's there, and people can download it and play it. Versus the old way of doing things. Sorry for pointing at you when I say.
Well,
old.
Well, no,
getting stuff in a box and printing the manual and all that sort of stuff takes a huge amount of time, and
also
that's
you
just
may
like
not
a drag
get
on the
you may only
process.
get a couple of copies in a store.
Yeah.
And if those copies sell, they may only reorder 2 more copies to replace those 2 copies, and that isn't really a momentum.
Yeah.
Whereas with social media and with Twitch Play and with just the noise that goes around now, which is not just reliant on marketing, it's actually people out there will tell you if it's good or it's bad.
Yeah, there's a much closer connection between us, the developers, and the community, which is lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's difficult stuff like back then, you'd ship your stuff, it'll be on a disc, and then it's out there, and you're done, and you can move on to the next game.
You can't change it.
You can't change
Exactly, that's it. You've gone gold.
But nowadays you have to keep patching things, adding content, which is lovely because it's good to put more content in the hands of people. But it's difficult, isn't it?
Well, the difficulty is that there's no finishing line.
Yeah.
You know, the game is constantly live, so therefore you can constantly improve or change or add. So I suppose we haven't really answered your question, but it's just a different world now. We have to accept that you don't have a 2-year cycle on a game, release it, ship it, move on to the next thing. That game has to be loved and looked after for as long as people are prepared to play it.
Doctor required in the GP's office.
Hopefully, we're gearing up to have something here that people are going to want to play for a very long time.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I think you mentioned something about the community in the last answer as well. We're not imminently close to release. You mentioned, I think yourself, we're not even in alpha yet, but of course the community around 2 Point Hospital, especially for a game that's not even in alpha, is incredibly strong. Given that they're not actively playtesting the game at the moment, or we're not really at that sort of level, what sort of feedback and input are you getting from the community that helps guide and shape the way the game is still being developed?
Well, we have a couple of really vocal, wonderful super fans who are just helping us sort of take reality checks on what we're doing, because we're in a bubble. We're making a game in Farnham, and we have no real sense of whether it's right or wrong, to be honest. You don't. You've got your instincts, but they're not always necessarily the only point you should be taking as a reference point. So we have a couple of people who really do support us. Blarla
they're great. Shout out to Blarla again.
She's great. I mean, she daily literally blogs about us, and any piece of, and this will be something she will blog about as well, any piece she sees of footage, she's just deciphering it and picking it apart and trying to work things out. And quite often she's joined a few dotted lines correctly, and that's actually really useful to know that, well, if they're getting it, then we're not that far off.
And building on their enthusiasm for things as well.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of other people doing this that are selecting little bits of the videos saying, oh, love this, and that's really helpful for us, because it kind of validates some of the stuff we're doing. And then if there's things people are less enthusiastic about, that's a clue that maybe we should take a closer look.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that maybe, and I suspect very deliberately, hasn't been updated as much, or maybe behind the scenes it has, I don't know, is the sort of visual style that we're going for in an era where if something doesn't have a trillion different textures, we're not particularly interested. There's something refreshing about seeing 2 Point Hospital. Like the trailer looks, how do I put it? Polished, but very deliberately not as elaborate as games that we would normally see in other genres. I presume, well, obviously that's intentional. Talk us through the thought process behind that and what led you to choose that kind of visual style.
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate Mark Smart and his art team, because that was the brief, really. We did not want to... One thing, just to go back a second, when we were making games at Bullfrog at that time, the time we made Theme Hospital, Theme Hospital was probably the low-tech of all the games in development. There was Dungeon Keeper, there was games like Magic Carpet 2, and they were all using 3D engines and, up-to-date renderers and that kind of thing. Sure. And they look kind of dated now, with all due respect to those games, because everything's moved on, whereas pixel art kind of looks contemporary at the moment. Definitely feels contemporary. So we wanted to come up with a style, because we are using 3D assets, that didn't feel like it would age quickly. So our art style it's kind of plasticine-y, it's kind of claymation-y, it's soft, it's curved, it's friendly. But the important thing with the art style and these kind of games is, if it was too detailed and too intricate, it would look very noisy and you would be struggling to make out detail. So we've got very simple shapes which are very readable from a camera height that the game supports. I mean, you can move the camera pretty much as close in as you want to, and quite far away, but we know this is kind of what we're looking at the moment is kind of the viewport I imagine people will generally play the game. So you want a nice clean read on the assets.
Yes, and I think you touched on that quite well. It's the kind of thing that doesn't feel like it. You think, oh, this could be dated, and then you look at it and you go, well, no, I'd happily play that. That doesn't. I it doesn't feel out of place.
Well, look
there'll
at
be
Aardman movies. I mean, we did not intentionally reference those guys. In fact, people have mentioned that back to us. If you look at things like the Wallace and Gromit films,
sure.
And when they make movies, like Wallace and Gromit was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, right?
Great point.
You look at what they do now, it looks the same, right? It does not age.
They
'cause
haven't changed
they
it.
haven't changed it.
Yeah.
So
it's
we
got a
were
lovely
we were trying
friendly quality to it.
absolutely. So we're just trying to find something that hopefully won't be of its time.
And I for a while, at least from what I've seen in the trailer, you've done a fantastic job of it. It looks superb, and I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Cool.
Great.
Fingers crossed. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. So we're aiming to release at some point this year.
Yes.
If people want to stay in touch with you and keep up with developments and find out what's going on with the game, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'll say this because Gary will forget them. It's
I've got a whiteboard for all the things I forget to say.
Gary's memory board.
My memory board, yeah.
There's on Twitter at 2 Point Studios and at 2 Point Hospital, but with
the number two. Yeah.
There's the Hospital Pass on our website. If you sign up for Hospital Pass, you'll get news as and when it happens.
And
you'll
is
get
that
lovely
2pointhospital.com?
That's 2pointhospital.com. And then there's our website at 2pointstudios.com. And is that all we do?
I think you've got it just right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
We've got Facebook as well, haven't we?
we've got Facebook.
And
You do indeed, because I tagged you just before we went live on
you
it.
do.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
In fact, both 2 Point Studios and 2 Point Hospital have a page on Facebook.
There you go.
And if you're unsure, you can check out the post I made literally moments before we went on camera.
That's good.
But that's really awesome. So is there anything that you'd like to say to the fans that are here this weekend? Maybe anything that you've teased out on the development side of things, and want to drop a little drop in the ocean?
You should be the one that says something you shouldn't say now.
Oh, Gary's notorious for just sort of dropping stuff in there.
Just a little bit.
It's like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say.
We're not allowed. We'll say something you think you're not allowed to say, but then I'll stop you when you actually get to the real.
I'm not allowed to say about
maybe mildly polite-ish, multi-ish.
Yeah.
That's it. Stop.
Wow.
I won't say any more.
Any more than that.
That's huge. Oh, okay. I can't talk about it. This is incredible. Okay.
It's just cool.
All right. So I can't get anything else out of my head now. That's all right. We should probably leave things there. So that's going to be.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Leave it
So
there.
and we're hoping to launch before the end of the. That's wait. Hang on. I'm putting 2 and 2 together. That's a lot of stuff to do before the end of this year.
To do,
Yeah, we should
we're
get
in
back
a
to the
good
office.
place. I mean, we've got to get back to the office soon and get on with it again.
Yeah.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we better let these guys get back to it so that we can actually get this game launched on time. Never mind the fact that it's a weekend. Thank you so much for coming on out. We're live with Make War Not Love, of course, here from PC Gamer Weekender. I've had the wonderful pleasure of chatting to 2 Point this afternoon. Guys, thank you so much for being on the stream. And I think we are going to be closing out now with some more exclusive gameplay footage from 2 Point Hospital. So from all of us here, we'll see you for the next stream. Take care.
Reception requires cleanup. Unattended patients may be removed and destroyed.